Welcome back to Going Solo. I'm Rick, and today we are continuing our adventure with Dr. Fright at the Sacred Groves. So let's go over the special rules. First, we have the Sacred Groves, which has a Wrath track, a Divine Wrath track, to be specific. The terror cards can manipulate the Wrath track, making it go up and down, or even unleashing. Unleashing means that we do whatever level it is currently at. We also have this add-on board for the Bloodlust track, which can manipulate the Wrath track as well. And we have our Atonement cards, which can allow us to reduce the Wrath, because the higher levels get more and more problematic as you go up. The board also has sacred spaces, and typically the number of victims on a sacred space affects how much the Wrath track goes up or down. Well, not down, up. Affects how much the Wrath track goes up. Now with Dr. Fright, we know from the last 3 sessions that we've played that we can only hurt Dr. Fright and he can only hurt us when we are asleep. We go to sleep either by a terror card forcing us to go to sleep or by using a short or long rest card. If we are not asleep, everything works normally except that we cannot attack Dr. Fright and he cannot attack us. When we are asleep, the big difference is that victims will not follow and you cannot save victims while you are asleep. Also, while you're asleep, at the end of each killer phase, you have to resolve at least 1 boiler room card. You can also do this as many times as you want during your action phase, but at the end of the killer phase, it's 1 and only 1. For the scenario-specific rules, the only one for this is that our first event card normally would happen once and then be done, but for this scenario, it will refresh basically every round. So during the upkeep phase, we will re-roll for its result and move the token that it deals with. Our final girl tonight is Adelaide. Adelaide has 6 health and requires 5 victims saved to unlock her special ability. So, let's go ahead and get started. Following horrific events at the Sacred Grove site, the park had to be repaired and restored. The extended time the park was closed resulted in the horrors being forgotten to some extent, but it was time to reopen. The gods had been pleased when the park closed. While the park was unclean and in disrepair, there were no mischievous tourists tearing up the place. When the park reopened, the administration decided they would allow camping on the grounds. They never cared about the sanctity of the place, only the money it could make them. People would die for that decision. Gods are not restricted to the earthly plane. A shadowy figure emerged in the boiler room Dr. Fright called home in the dream world. The language they communicated in was otherworldly, but the gist of the conversation was that the gods wanted Dr. Fright to help them get the park closed forever, or, at a minimum, make the administration disallow sleeping at the sacred sites. Thus, an unlikely alliance of evil was formed in the dream world. Dr. Fright would soon manifest himself into one of the campers' dreams, a dream that would be their last. Okay, so I've got my 0-cost cards here. Put those aside as my hand. And let's reveal our starting event, which is Fire and Brimstone. So for this, we roll a dice. And it is a 6, so the Fire and Brimstone token goes in the Holy Groves. And any victims on that space each victim on that space counts as 2 victims when determining increases to the Wrath track. And as I said earlier, normally that's a one-time thing, but for this scenario, we will be re-rolling that, and that token will move at each upkeep phase. Well, it might not move. It depends on what I roll, but you get the idea. All right, so let's go ahead and get started with our first move. So let's see here. I definitely want to try to get a weapon. Let's see. I'm closest to the Welcome Center, and the Welcome Center has a map up top. So that might be something I need to go for. I also would like to get my horror level down to where I can have a third dice. Let me go ahead and grab 2 over here. So let's start with a focus. See how that works out. We did get 1 success, so we lose a time, and the horror level does go down by 1. And then let's go ahead and do a walk. Two partials. So let's go ahead and take our weak attack and short rest to make one of those a success. So we just lose a time and we get to move 1 space. And let's see, am I going to do one more thing? I think I am. I think I'm going to try to do another focus. No. No, I'm not. No, I'm not. I'm going to end my turn there. And then I'm going to take a distraction card to try to get me to the third dice. So that is 1, 2, 3. And with 1 point left, I'm going to take a close call. All right. That brings us to the killer's turn. So his base action is that he can attack anybody that's in his space, or he can make 1 attack in his space. But for this first round, nobody is currently in his space. So there's nobody for him to attack. So we just go ahead and draw a terror card, which is Fury of the Gods. So first we get another event. And that event is the Uber Tourist. The victim furthest from the killer is the Uber Tourist. So let's see, that would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so he's 5 away. How far away is this one? 1, 2, 3, 4. He's also 5 away. So it's one of these two. Which one would be better for us, though? The victim furthest from the killer is the Uber Tourist. Whenever the killer must choose a target, the Uber Tourist is chosen instead. If the Uber Tourist is saved, decrease wrath by 4. If the Uber Tourist is killed, increase divine wrath by 4. Okay, so I know this card is going to increase the wrath pretty significantly, so I'm going to put the Uber Tourist here so that I can save him fairly quickly to get the wrath to come back down. All right, so then we increase wrath by the number of victims at sacred spaces, which is 2. Then we unleash wrath. Discard 1 random action card. So I'm just going to fan these out here and discard this one. It's a walk. All right, and then we increase wrath by the number of victims at sacred spaces again. So it goes up by 2 again. Unleashing here would not be good for us because that would increase the horror level, getting us further away from our goal, but luckily that is where the card ends. All right. So that's the killer's phase. There's no panic because nobody died. And during the upkeep phase, we re-roll for our fire and brimstone. And that's a 5, so it stays where it is. Okay, we're back to my turn. I should have bought a search, but I did not. And I also now have no way of moving. So let's go ahead and go for a distraction. Two partials. Let's go ahead and do our close call. We'll take the 2 time to roll both again. And it's still a partial. So I can either take a hit of 4 time and decrease horror, or I can take a hit of 2 time and increase horror by 1. Either way is pretty bad for me buying anything this round. So I think I'm going to do the 4. So let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm at 0 so that I can decrease horror by 1. And it's my last card anyway, so I am going to go ahead and try to focus. That's a success. So I do decrease horror, gaining another dice, but that immediately ends my turn. Alright, so I have no points with which to buy anything. So all I get are my 0 cost back. Alright, we are back to Dr. Fright's turn. So there's still nobody in his space, so we will draw a card. And it is, didn't you know they were already dead? If you have not saved any victims, or your Final Girl card has been flipped, discard this card and resolve the next terror card. So I have not saved any victims, so I discard and draw the next. Slash her. Alright, so he targets first and then attacks, but there's nobody in his space to attack. Next he targets, moves, and attacks. And his target right now is always going to be the Uber tourist. So he only gets 1 space of movement, and there's only 1 space he can move to from this spot. And then he attacks, but there's nobody to attack. All victims that are not in a search space panic. And that looks like everybody except for this guy right here. So let's start at the Sacred Shrine. That's a 6. Which means he's going to go over there. I'm going to put him aside for right now, because there's a bunch of people in there already. The Burial Grounds is a 1. So he doesn't move. Next one, a 6. So they move over to the burial ground. Next one, a 4. So they move there. And then we've got 6 people in the center here. I'm just going to roll 6 dice at once. Let's see. We got a 1, a 1, a 3, a 4, a 5, and a 6. So we got 2 1s. So 2 of them come down here. 1 3. 1 4. And 1 5 and 6. That is not great for me, because that means I've got 6 people in sacred spaces. So if I get another Divine Wrath card, that's going to shoot up really, really quickly. But that's the end of the tarot card there. Which means it is once again my turn. And now I have 3 dice. Let's go ahead and just take those 3. The ones that rolled the best on the last roll. Okay. These should have gone back into the tableau here. All right. So I'm going to do a walk. Two successes. All right, so I lose 1 time, and I get to move 2 spaces. I could save the Uber tourist to get the Wrath to come down, and then come back to this space, and then hopefully get a search card. I think that's what I'm going to do. So I'll come over here, save the Uber tourist, and then go back here. And then I'm going to take the 2 time as my saving reward. All right. And then I'm going to do a focus, see if I can put a little padding on my horror level. So I do lose a time, but my horror level is at the max at the moment. Okay. So I've got 6 points. Definitely going to take a search for 2. Definitely going to take a sprint for 2. And I think I'm going to take another sprint. And then, of course, these 2 0 cost. All right. And we are back to Dr. Fright's turn. Oops. I think that was... Yeah, let's go ahead and reroll 3, so that would have been the burial ground. All right. So that was for this last round, because I forgot to do it. Okay. All right, so Dr. Fright's turn. There's still nobody in his space that he's able to get to. And, of course, with all these people in sacred spaces, I get this card. If I climb on top of that statue, I can get a killer selfie. So I increase the wrath by the number of victims in sacred spaces. Each of these count for 2. So that is 8, 9, 10. So that's, of course, going to max out the wrath. And then we unleash. And the unleash is discard all action cards except for atonement, and decrease wrath by the number of cards discarded. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Which put us down to level 3. Place 2 new victims on the burial grounds. Jeez. Okay. Yeah, these. And then all victims adjacent to the burial grounds move there. So we have a whole mess of people on the burial grounds. right now, which means increases to Wrath based on that is going to always shoot it straight up to 10. But that's okay. We're okay. So that was the killer's turn. End of the killer's turn. Nobody died, so there's no panic. And at the upkeep phase, this moves here. All right. Back to the final girl's turn. I have no cards. So the only thing I can do is buy cards. See, I've got 6 points. So I'm going to buy a search for 2. And then I'm going to buy... Let's go ahead and buy an atonement for 2. You know what? I'm just going to go ahead and buy both atonements. And then I get these cards back. Well, search goes over here. Sprint goes over here. Walk and focus. Okay. Back to the killer's turn. He doesn't have anybody to attack. Endless sleep. So now he has an extra health, and I'm now asleep. And while this card is there, I stay asleep even when I get out of the boiler room. It just resets as long as that card is active. So I've really got to get there and get rid of that card so that I can save some victims, because, yeah, it's not looking good. Okay. Now. So, that is the end of the killer's phase, which means we go to the boiler room. Alright, so here we are in the boiler room. So, for those of you who don't remember, this game is played by sliding the cards either left, right, up, or down to reveal the next card. And if Dr. Fright is in that section of the card, the half of the card that you reveal, then he gets to attack. And I think I am going to swipe down. Oh, I didn't do it correctly. So first, this goes to the back, and then I flip it over. There we go. And I am going to swipe down still. And that was a success. All right. Now, let's see. There's no panic. And then for the upkeep phase, Fire and Brimstone goes over to the Holy Groves. We are back to the action phase. So obviously, we're going to search first. One success. So I get to take the top item card, which is the map. So I can discard during the action phase, and then for each deck of item cards, do one of the following. If the top card is face down, turn it face up. If the top card is face up, you may discard it from the game to turn the next card face up. Okay, so I'm going to hold on to that for a minute. I really would like to get to the Lost and Found, which is down here, to get that whip so that I at least have a weapon. So our next action is going to be a walk. Ooh. Alright, I'm going to get rid of a focus and an atonement to turn this into a success. I lose one time and I get to move one space. I'm going to start moving towards the lost and found over here. And I think that's all I'm going to do this round. Yeah, that's all I'm going to do this round. Okay. So let's see, I've got 5 points. Let's go ahead and get a sprint. So hopefully I can get to the lost and found. Get a search. And we'll take a close call as well. And then our 0 cost, if I can. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, we're good. Okay. Now it is Dr. Fright's turn again. There's nobody in his space. He hasn't been able to move very much, but that's about to change. Blurred reality. Until the next killer phase, you and Dr. Fright may damage each other if you are awake. We're not awake. We are currently asleep. So that's not going to be a thing. But now he targets, moves, and attacks. He's only got one space of movement. He's going to move towards the closest set of victims, which would be this way. And attack, but there's nobody to attack, which is great. It's awesome. It's fantastic, actually. Okay. So, end of the killer phase. We go back into the boiler. Alright, so we're back in the boiler room. Let's see here. I think I'm either going to go left or right. I can't go up because it wouldn't reveal any new sections. So I can either go left, right, or down, and I think down is a bad option because this one was clear. Which means there are still 2 cards in there where Dr. Fright is in one of the top quadrants. So I think I'm going to slide left. And there's Dr. Fright. So he does get to attack me for 1 health. And we are finished with the boiler room. Okay, so nobody died, so there's no panic. And so now we roll for Fire and Brimstone. 5, which means it stays where it is, which is good because there's no victims there. And then we are back to my turn. Alright, let's see what we want to do here. We definitely want to sprint towards the lost and found. One success. Don't need to make it 2 because I only need 2 spaces. So I lose a time and I go 1, 2. I'm not bringing victims with me because I'm going to be taking some out back the other way, hopefully. And now that I'm here, I'm going to do a search. Oh. So let's get rid of focus and short rest, I think. Should be okay. I kind of want that weak attack to stay just in case he comes at me. And then, so that's going to turn one of these into a success, which means let me go ahead and play my close call and reroll one of these, which does not require me to sacrifice time. Nope, it didn't help. Okay. So I get the top card, which is the whip. If you damage an enemy with the whip, you may move them one space. That's awesome. And it is a one-handed thing, so got room for something else. But now I am going to walk. Hopefully, anyway. We'll see. Yes, I'm definitely going to walk. Do I want to discard these cards and move 2 spaces instead, though? I think so. Yeah, let me do that. Okay. So turn that one into a success. So I get to move 2 spaces. I'm taking 2 victims with me. 1, 2. Okay. And that's all my cards. So we are back to the killer phase. There's nobody in his space for him to attack. So we get a terror card, which is Punishment of the Gods, which means we unleash Wrath twice. And then he moves, attacks. So he's, of course, going to move here and attack, which is going to increase Bloodlust, which increased Horror. And then we get an event card. Flash Photography. Whenever at least one victim in your space panics, discard 1 random action card. Alright. Oh, I didn't buy cards. Okay. 4. Let's buy a sprint, and with 2 more points, I'll buy a search. And then all of these would have gone back. All right. There we go. Okay. But anyway. So that's the end of the killer phase. Boiler room card. Okay. So, last time we moved right, or left. No, right. We moved right, and we saw Dr. Fright. Which means we've got pretty equal chances whether we move the deck down or to the right again of seeing Dr. Fright again. If we move it up, we don't know what our chances are because I don't know what this quadrant was. I think I'm going to move it right again. Okay, we're good. All right. So, then there's nobody to panic. There's no panic because nobody's in the killer's space. And for upkeep, we roll for Fire and Brimstone, which is a 6, so it stays where it is. Okay. Now, we are back to me. I could start with a walk to get to the Welcome Center and search again. Or I could do a sprint and get these guys out first and then go back to the Welcome Center. So we are going to attempt to walk. That is a failure. Let's see, that's going to cost me 2 time. We're just going to take it. But I still get to move 1 space. Then I'm going to search. Ugh, failure again. We're going to switch this one. We're just going to discard these last 2 cards. And we got an aluminum bat. Whenever you inflict damage to the killer with the aluminum bat, you may immediately discard a minor dark power, including any health markers remaining on the card. Let's put it in my backpack for the moment. It doesn't do any extra damage, but it is two-handed, so I can't hold it with the whip. Alright, and then I did lose a time for that. Okay. So that's, I'm out of cards, so I've got 3 time left. We're going to take a sprint for 2 and a close call for 1. And then these 0 cost. The rest of these go back. And we move on to the killer phase. Let's see, there's nobody in his space for him to attack. Better stay up late. If you are awake, -1 dice for horror rolls during the next action phase. If you are asleep, immediately resolve all remaining boiler room cards. Which is only 1, so let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so we've only got 1 boiler room card left that I've got to resolve here. And it's under this. So we can either come down, we can go up, or we can go to the right again. Now we've seen 1 to the right, but we haven't seen what the bottom of this card is. And we've seen 1 up top, but we haven't seen the top of this card yet. We haven't seen any on the bottom yet. And I've got 2 blank bottoms out here. So I'm pretty sure if I slid up, there would be... If I slide up, there's definitely... Yeah, the last card is definitely on the bottom. So, we are going to slide down, which resolves the boiler room, but because of our endless sleep ability, we shuffle it and just reset it. Shuffle, 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 shuffle. And it is reset. Alright, so finally he targets, moves, and attacks. So he's going to target these guys, move, attack, and Bloodlust goes up, which means he has gained his second space of movement. I didn't increase this, but it hasn't changed since, so I can go ahead and do it because it would have gone all the way up to 10. Okay. Alright, so that's the killer phase, which means we have to do Boiler Room again. Alright, so this time, let's see. Let's go ahead and slide to the right. Ah, there he is. Okay. So he attacks me again. And we're finished with the Boiler Room. Okay. So, oh, this can go over here. Now, panic. We do have one person to panic. That's a 2. So they are going to... Ooh, those red numbers are kind of hard to see. 6, 4, 5, 3. So 2 means they stay. Then for upkeep, that's a 4. So that means this goes over here now. And we are back to Final Girl phase. Okay, let's start with an attempt to focus. That is exactly what I expected to happen. So we'll discard the short rest and weak attack to make that a success. Move that down. Then we're going to do a sprint. We got 1. Okay. I can deal with that. So that means I get to move 2 spaces. Take these guys with us here. Save both of them. We're going to reduce the horror level. And move another space. No. We'll just reduce the horror level twice to give us a buffer. And then I've still got 1 space of movement left, so I'll move back in there. And then I've got 3 dice. I'm going to attempt a walk. 3 successes. Okay. So I still lose a time, but I get to move 2 spaces. And I'm going to move right in here with these guys. Just balance her on top there for a minute. And that's going to be my turn. All right. And we are almost ready to unlock the finale, which I don't like. Let's see, I've got 3 points. Let's go ahead and take a sprint and a close call. And then we are back to the killer phase. So, they attack. Glad I had a buffer. Terror card. Grab your crucifix. If you have a crucifix, you may discard it to ignore the effects of this card. I do not. So he's going to target a victim, move, and attack. which means this goes up, which means the dark power is revealed. If a victim would panic, it is killed instead. Max 3 per turn. Okay, that's not great. And then he moves, attacks again. Which sends that up again. And that's the end of his turn. So now we've got to do a boiler room. All right, let's see. He was at the bottom last time. So I'm going to try going up. And we succeeded on that one. Okay, and then it is the panic phase. So 3 of these automatically die. Because of the minor dark power. Which means Bloodlust goes up 3 times. And also Horror went up 3 times. And then these other 3, I'm guessing, would panic as normal. Let's see. So we got 2 2s and a 4. There's the 4. And I think that's a 3, 4, 5, and 6. The red letters are kind of hard to see. But, which means that the 2s stay in place. With Dr. Fright standing right there. Okay. So that's the end of the panic phase. We roll for the Fire and Brimstone. It stays in place. And we're back to the Final Girl's turn. Okay. Oops. These should have gone back. Alright, so we're going to go for a sprint first. Try to get these 2 victims out of here. I could do a close call to roll everything again. I'm going to do that, I think. Jeez, okay. Well, I'm going to discard a focus and a close call then. Turn one of those into a success so that I can move 2 spaces. Which is enough to get these 2 victims out. So I gain 2 time back. And I get to move 1 more space. Now the question is, which way do I want to move? Because if I go back towards him... let's go back towards him. Okay. Yes. Alright, I'm good with that. And that is going to end my turn. And then before I buy anything, before I end my turn, I'm going to discard my map, which means I can reveal what's here. A first aid kit. Reveal what's here. Mysterious pills. And I can discard that to reveal what's here. A tribal mask. None of that really helpful at this specific moment. But now I can buy. So I've got 5 points. I'm going to buy a retaliate for when he inevitably comes after me. And of course I'm going to take my 0 cost, and there's no close calls, so nothing I can buy for 1 point. Alright. So, now it's the killer's turn. There's nobody for him to kill in his space here. Oh, I get to also reveal my special ability. Choose one of the following immediate effects. Decrease type of wrath to 1. Recover all health. Or take up to 6 cost worth of action cards into your hand. That is a good question. Okay. I think I'm going to take the... I think I'm going to take the 6 cost worth of cards. Even though I might have to discard them all if that wrath increases anymore. Yeah, okay. So I'm going to take a Furious Strike and a Search. No, not a Search. A Guard. To kind of try to protect myself from some damage. Okay. Alright. So, we are back to his turn. Of course, there's nobody in his space. And here we go. Increase wrath by the number of victims in sacred spaces. There are none. Unleash wrath, which means all of my cards get discarded. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Which brings wrath down to 2. Place 2 new victims at the Holy Groves. And all victims adjacent to the Holy Groves move there. There's no victims adjacent to it. Alright, and that's it. There's no panic, because nobody's close enough to, or nobody's in his space to panic. So during upkeep, we roll for our Fire and Brimstone, which keeps it there, and our finale is revealed. Kill 2 victims automatically. Okay. 2 victims automatically. When this card is revealed, remove Dr. Fright from the board and place him on his card. For the remainder of the game, Dr. Fright may be attacked from any space if you are asleep. Oh, each round kills 2 victims. Oh, crap. Okay, yep, I'm dead. This is not going to be good. So I've got one chance to kill him. And I'm not going to be able to do it. Because he doesn't actually attack me, he just takes 4 health from me. Alright, so that's the end of the killer phase. So, and oh, we had to reset the boiler room because of this. So let's reset the boiler room. Excuse me. We are at the end of the killer phase. All right. So I'm going to slide. It doesn't matter which way okay. Yeah, this game, I believe, is pretty much lost. But I'm going to slide down. I have it upside down again. Alright, gonna slide down. There's Dr. Fright, so I take 4 damage, which is all of my damage. And I do not have any health under my token, so that's going to end our game. So that was Dr. Fright at the Sacred Groves. Thank you for watching, and next week we will wrap up Dr. Fright at the Carnival of Blood.